Zellick back to the table, please. Thank you. So I just want to we got somewhere right at the end there. So you will be, just to confirm, you will be obtaining the HUDAS in languages other than English.
Yes, Senator.
Wonderful. Will you also be obtaining the Vineland 3 comprehensive tool in languages other than English?
I haven't memorized what languages each tool is, right? They're all internationally used tools, and we want to use the ones that are appropriate given the concerns that you've raised to the committee.
So you will be obtaining Vineland 3 in languages other than English?
If it currently exists other than English, yes.
And if it doesn't currently exist in languages other than English, will you seek to have it translated into languages other than English?
It's worth an investigation, Senator. Of course, they are standardized tools that have been rigorously tested, and I don't think it would be appropriate for the NDIA to assert a tool is valid and standard in a translation that we would do individually.
And would the same go for the Pediatric Evaluation Disability Computer Adaptive Testing PEDICAT?
It would go for all tools, Senator, including the Ages and Stages questionnaire that's tailored for children of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander descent.
Okay. Can you provide to me on notice then the languages other than English that you intend to procure the HUDAS in, and the other languages other than English that you intend to procure the other tools in?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. All right. So now we'll go to a couple of questions along a different line, and I'll just have to, I think these will go first to the Minister, and I think for ease of questioning it would probably be best if I was able to pass a printout of an article along to you. Would I have to table that, Chair?
We'll just get that.
Is that all right for me to table it? Thank you.
We'll just need to look at it.
And then I'll just wait for that to get along the table to yourself.
Just run some copies off if you want to start.
Chair, if it's okay, perhaps I could, with permission, Senator, just answer Senator Green's carryover.
Yep.
It'll take me two ticks.
That would be great, thank you.
So the contracts for the 8 were all executed by the 29th of January, as the contractors were made aware. Success on the 19th of February, and the announcement was the 26th of February, as we said before.
They found out on what day?
The 19th of February.
Wow, well before those consultations finalised. Okay, thank you.
Just seeking your guidance, Chair. Do you just wait?
If you're happy to start
documents
asking
are
the
tabled?
question, that's fine, but we're just waiting for them to be photocopied.
I mean, okay, well maybe, do you mind, Minister, if I just read there's a quotation from one of these articles, but I just wanted you to be able to have the article so that you knew I wasn't taking it out of context.
I trust you implicitly, Senator. May well be foolish, but I do.
Yeah, well, yes. I might have to re-examine what I've done in my time here to gain you. Okay. So you'll have shortly before you an article by Rick Morton written on the 1st of May of 2019, and it was in relation to the sudden resignation of then CEO DeLuca's his sudden resignation from the agency. It characterises Mr. DeLuca in a certain way in the opening of the second paragraph. So it says, former Bankwest Managing Director Rob DeLuca was poached by Christian Porter, then Social Services Minister, to become Chief Executive of the NDIA. Now, has the government ever refuted the categorisation of Mr. DeLuca as having been poached, or is that still something, as far as you're aware, that is consistent with what happened there?
Yeah, look, Senator Steele-John, I'm not aware of this. This was before my time. I may have to let officials answer or take it on notice because I'm unaware of the circumstances.
The circumstances at the time. But to your knowledge, the government's never gone, oh, that wasn't quite what happened with that.
Well, I genuinely don't know, Senator Steele-John, so I'm going to have to defer either to the officials or get that on notice for you.
Senator, Mr. DeLuca had been appointed just before I took up the role as Secretary of Social Services. My recollection was that there was a open merit selection process, and he was identified and appointed after that. We're just going to get someone to check, but that is my recollection.
Just, you can take it on notice, that's fine. Now, I've also got another document here which I will also seek to table, but I will actually just continue on with my line of questioning as it is circulated to you. Now, that document, I'll just have to wait for it to come back to me because it's the only one that I didn't double print. Oh no, here it is. Apologies. So that document is an extract of evidence given by...
The document you're getting circulated, or
Do you know where it's come from?
Yes. Do you want me
It's
to...
a confidential document that's at the top, so we're just...
But it is now in the public domain.
okay.
I'm explaining where it's from as part of the line of question.
Okay.
So the document that's making its way to you on the table is an extract of evidence given by Bank West to the Banking Royal Commission. And in the relevant section is actually an extract given by Commonwealth Bank, who at that time was the parent company, I think still is, of Bank West. The bottom line of the table that you'll soon have before you lists a Mr. Robert DeLuca as having received a bonus of $64,667 upon in the end of the year 2017, 1st of July. In his subsequent clarification to the table, it reads, and I quote, no interest is payable on the financial year 2016 deferred STVR, which is lingo for bonus in the banking space, for Rob DeLuca in line with termination arrangements approved by the board. So I'm now going to ask you what steps were taken upon the hiring of Mr. DeLuca to ascertain exactly why he had been terminated from his role with Bank West.
So, Senator, I don't think there's anyone at the table who's going to be able to answer that question for you. We'll take it on notice and come back to you through that. My understanding was that the then chair of the board, no doubt, was the chair of the selection panel, and we'll find some more details.
No, we haven't got it yet.
You can't be poached if you've been sacked, can you, Minister?
Senator, I'm not aware of the circumstances around this particular employment matter because I wasn't around at the time.
Was the department or the agency aware that Mr. DeLuca had been terminated from his role when he applied for the job?
Senator, I've indicated to you that this occurred before I was the Secretary of the Department of Social Services, and so I've undertaken to take the question on notice and get back to you.
Because given the reputation and subsequent revelations in relation to Commonwealth Bank at the Banking Royal Commission, if I was taking somebody on board in my team that had recently been terminated from a subsidiary organisation, that would be something that would deeply concern me. So if you could get that information back to me on notice, that would be greatly appreciated. I'll stick with this, Mr. DeLuca, for a moment. He is now the CEO of Zenitas Healthcare, who are a parent company of Allied Healthcare Group, a successful tenderer for the rollout of independent assessments. How is it that a former CEO of the NDIA, who was terminated from his role at a bank during the run-up to a Banking Royal Commission, has now been given such a significant role, given that he would have attained in his time as CEO significant corporate knowledge and institutional knowledge around the functioning of the agency?
Senator, firstly, the way you phrased the question, I don't think it's a given that this document, and that's why the Secretary has taken it on notice, shows that Mr. DeLuca was terminated. So I don't think, in the interest of fairness to him...
You don't think the word terminated means
So
terminated?
Senator, we'll take those, I've taken those questions on notice,
rather than
and we'll leave
assuming
that
that was the situation.
Are you aware of an interpretation in the English language of terminated other than terminated?
Senator Steele-John, the matter has been taken on
So,
notice.
Senator, I've taken that on notice, so I think we probably need to move
Yep.
to the next question. Yeah.
Coming to the matter there, as I went through with Senator Green, there was an open, transparent tender. There was a probity advisor for that process, independent in Maddox. There was careful separation of information and people involved. The sort of selection criteria that applied for the selection of these companies for the services being provided, I'm very confident, as I said, that the prior employment of Mr. DeLuca does not go to the sort of criteria of selection. As I said, I've never met or spoken with him. I was the one making the final recommendations. Likewise, the board, as I explained, it doesn't hold water to suggest that they were, seeking to advantage him. This has been handled entirely properly, and I don't accept that there is an issue here at all.
I have here a copy of a couple of articles. I want to just check that you have seen them. The ABC has published this morning an article titled, As the NDIS moves to independent assessments, these companies stand to profit from the change. Have you seen those? Have you seen the article, Minister?
Sorry, I'm sorry,
Did you want to table those? Do you want to still?
Yes, I suppose I could.
I'm not sure for the article. I can't say whether.
No, it sounds like you haven't seen them, so that's fine.
Can we table those before we proceed?
I could, but I wasn't going to quote them in detail. I was just.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen them, Mr. Hoffman? This article from the ABC this morning?
I've seen some articles this morning. I'm not sure of the exact one you might be referring to.
I would be stunned if you hadn't seen them. So we have a situation where a former CEO of the agency is now the head of a company which is providing significant contracts to the NDIS. That company is the subsidiary of other companies which are participating in the independent assessment process that have been awarded the tender to do that. I also have here a printout of the page of a relevant document from the Austrade website, which lists the fact that the NDIA is not subject to the procurement framework, including the requirement to publish on AusTender. And that has been a decision, apparently, of the Department of Finance. Minister, can you tell me exactly when the NDIA, or maybe Mr. Hoffman, when the agency was granted exemption from the procurement framework?
Senator, the NDIA is what's known as a Commonwealth Corporate Entity, a CCE. As such, all CCEs under the framework are not, have a different status, and so it's not a special dispensation towards us. It is part of the standard framework run by the Department of Finance as to the requirements upon different government entities and agencies.
And it is not only Zenitas, headed by Mr. DeLuca, in which this dynamic exists, where we have a service provider on one end that is the parent company of an independent assessment provider on the other. We also have AMP, which is a major NDIS contractor who has earned no less than $86 million providing LAC services in WA. Under the terms of the rules, independent assessment tenderers are meant not to be providing also LAC services. However, AMP is the subsidiary of a company called Connect that has won a tender to deliver in IAs in areas where their parent company is also a service provider. And so I'd like to ask you what has been done in the contracting arrangements between the agency and the independent assessment providers to ensure that the data gathered through the process of independent assessments is not shared with parent companies.
So, Senator, let me go through a few points on that matter. Firstly, just I think it's APM rather than AMP. I'm sure AMP has got enough of its own problems without worrying about these ones. So APM and these other groups. So we have a process where the separate companies that might be part of a larger group are providing assessment services and not providing other services. They are required under the contracts to have separation in terms of management and systems, and yes, definitely in terms of information flow. So yes, there will be separate companies within a wider group that collectively may provide a range of services associated with the NDIS, but the individual company, separated by contractual requirements in terms of information flow, in terms of separate systems and management, remains separate. Let me make two other really important points about conflicts of interest here. Firstly, there is a balance here to ensure that we don't conflict out so much capacity in service provision through independent assessments that we limit the ability to actually provide services and supports to participants. So that's why we're needing to make a judgment.
You had 30 applicants and you're telling me you only had to pick those. You could only pick those whose parent company were also service providers.
Let me finish the
Steele-John,
answer.
please let them
You're going to have to pull the other one with this.
respond.
No, not at all. These are large groups. To take out to conflict out such a large part of capacity
One of these providers had never provided contracting to the federal government in this area before. What the hell are you talking about?
Steele-John, please let the witness respond.
The second point when it comes to conflicts of interest is that we're making a significant change into the way it works, in the sense of today it is the same service provider, physio, OT, providing the report about the support that they will supply. So the real conflicts of interest is the way the scheme is operating today, where repeatedly it is the...
so that makes it okay?
No, it doesn't make it okay, Senator. It doesn't make it okay. What I'm explaining is, if you care about conflicts of interest, it is a significant improvement to have a clear separation between the information on which we make decisions.
So you've described to me, Mr. Hoffman, you've described to me what you call clear separations. You think you've got this conflict of interest issue sewn up because there are clear distinctions between parent companies and subsidiaries. And yet in the article this morning published by the ABC, we have multiple examples of subsidiary companies advertising for assessors upon their parent company's website. Now, is that what you call a clear distinction?
Senator, I don't accept that that's an accurate description of what is happening in that case. I'm happy to go into the details there.
Well, indeed, you're right, Mr. Hoffman. It's the other way around. So, yeah, so you have a mixing of the advertising going on already between parent and subsidiary companies. It was detailed very clearly in the article. So we are already seeing a blurring.
So, as I just said, the article is not accurate in its description of the relationship between...
So we're gonna trust you over independent investigation, are we?
Senator Steele-John, that's a reflection. Thank you. Yes. Sorry, I just called that. Senator Steele-John, that was a reflection, so could you please withdraw that?
I'll modify the language there. So you expect us to trust the NDIA, which has, in the implementation of this program, made so many innumerable mistakes that if I was to list them, I would be here for an hour over the independent investigation of our public broadcaster.
Now,
Senator, I'm giving you honest evidence to the best of my ability.
Senator Steele-John, your time's expired. I'll call Senator Green.
Thank you very much, Chair.